In this video, the Historic Ordnance Series, we're going to look at the US-made M26 bounding fragmentation mine. Now, this mine was considered or designated as being unnecessary for use by the end of the Cold War, and it was disposed of after the Cold War. By the time I went to the engineer school, these had already gotten that designation, and even though they were in the manuals, we were not trained on them. Now, this mine, reportedly, the last reference that I have on this of them being in the inventory, in 1996, the U.S. Army was reporting that 22,000 of them were still in depots in the United States, and it would take them only 2 months to destroy the remaining stockpiles. Stocks of them that were in Korea, my guess is, got handed off to the South Koreans because they are one of the countries we exported them to. These mines have been given to South Korea, El Salvador, and Thailand, and it looks like a bunch of them were smuggled out of Thai depots and taken into Myanmar, also known as Burma, and they've made an appearance on the battlefields there. Now, some of the technicals on this. It is 3 inches in diameter, 5 3/4 inches in height. Weight is 2 1/4 pounds, of which 6 ounces is the explosive filler, and the filler used is Comp B. Now, unlike most bounding fragmentation mines, this mine does not shoot a canister up out of the ground, which detonates, spreading fragmentation all over the place. This fires essentially a miniaturized M67 fragmentation grenade up out of the ground to the height of about 6 meters, where it 2 meters, 6 feet, 2 meters, where it detonates, spreading fragmentation out to a zone of about 20 meters in diameter. The bodies of the mine itself is cast aluminum. Temp range for these for employment was negative 40 degrees Fahrenheit to a max of 125 degrees Fahrenheit. Everything was integral on these mines. The fuse, the detonator was already installed, and each mine came with an arming handle, spool down at the bottom with 4 lengths of tripwire. Each tripwire was 20 feet in length. There was 2 tan ones, 2 OD green ones. There's also what's referred to as the trip lever was also attached to that spool. That trip lever was a piece of round stock with a loop on one end, threaded on the other, which gets screwed into the pressure plate for putting this into tripwire activation mode. These mines were packaged 3 mines to a cardboard container, 6 containers per crate, 18 mines to a crate. Now, when I was a young soldier, I and some of the others would ask the platoon sergeant, why were we not being trained on these? Because they were still appearing on our sheets that we were supposed to get tested on them every 6 months. And he stated that they were too dangerous. The pressure plates and fuses on these mines were just a little bit too twitchy, and if you screwed up anything even a little bit, this mine would go off in your face. And that's probably the reason why the U.S. Army considered them unnecessary by the end of the Cold War. Now, installation of this mine in pressure mode. First thing you're going to do, you're going to inspect the mine. You're going to make sure no damaged. You got the arming latch, and you also have the pin on here, which is not in this picture, it is in the drawing here. The arming latch retaining pin, make sure it is in place. You also want to make sure that the mine is in safe, the S mark over here, not A, armed, which is over here. You want to make sure you have the accessories for putting this mine in. When you're putting it in pressure, you primarily need the arming handle. You still leave the spool of tripwire and the trip lever attached to the bottom of the mine for stability when it's inside the hole. If it passes inspection, take it to the location where it's going to be in place. You're going to dig a hole between 5 to 6 inches in depth, and you want these studs on top which hold the arming latch, you want those above the surface of the soil. Those are going to be your pressure prongs. There is a note that when you get about halfway up on the mine and height here, you're going to make your hole wider at that point by an additional inch going all the way around the mine, so that you can have your fingers in there when you're arming to mine to stabilize it. Once the hole is ready, make sure the spool is on there, lower the mine down into the hole, backfill the dirt up to that halfway point. Make sure you have your arming handle. Now at this point, you got the dirt is packed in for stabilization. You're going to take your left hand, you're going to put it on the collar at the top of the mine here. You're going to remove the arming latch retaining pin. You're going to attach the arming handle to right here on the top of the arming latch. You're then going to, while holding the mine, you're going to rotate it 90 degrees clockwise to the A mark, the armed mark. At that point, you're going to backfill the rest of the soil to the top of the mine. You are then going to camouflage the mine. And then, using the lanyard on the back of the arming latch here, while you're in the prone position, backed away from the mine as best you can, you're going to carefully pull the arming latch out from the top of the pressure plate. The mine's ready to go. Now for removal, pretty much the reverse. You're going to go through, check around the area where the mine for any other secondary mines and booby traps that could be in the area. Neutralize those first as you come across them. When you get up to the area where the mine is supposed to be at, you're going to locate it. You're going to very carefully uncover it. Get a look at the top of the mine. Clear away enough of the soil from around the mine and from the top very gently. You are then going to slip in the arming latch into the studs on the top all the way. You want to make sure this middle prong moves all the way forward and latches in around what's referred to as the tripwire cam, this socket right there. Make sure the arming latch is in place. Once it is in place, then you will attach the arming handle to the arming latch, and you will rotate it from armed counterclockwise 90 degrees to the S position, the safe position. At this point, you can then go through, check around the mine for any booby traps or anti-handling devices. If any are located, destroy the mine in place. If none are located, remove the mine from the ground, and then you are going to slip in the arming latch retaining pin. And there is a note that you may have to back the pressure plate off just a fraction in order to get the ports, the holes where the pin is supposed to go into, to get everything to line up just perfectly. And then put the cotter pin in there, spread the ends of it apart so it won't fall out, clean up the mine, and turn it in. Now, installation in pressure mode. For the most part, the same, but there is the changes, obviously, for attaching the tripwires. First thing you're going to do, you're going to inspect the mine. You're going to make sure you got the arming handle, you got 1 to 2 lengths of tripwire, the correct color that you need, either the tan for in sandy or fall conditions, green for in vegetation. You also need to make sure you have the trip lever, as you see out the top here. Make sure you got those pieces. Everything passes inspection. Take it to your emplacement location. When you're there, same as before, you're going to dig a hole between 5 to 6 inches in depth. Halfway up the hole, you make the hole wider by about an inch going all the way around for stabilization. Then you're going to take off the parts that you need, the arming lever, or dearming handle, the trip lever, 2 lengths of tripwire, or 1 length, depending on how many you're going to employ. Make sure to put the spool back on the bottom for stabilizing the mine when it's in the hole. Hole is prepped. You're going to put the mine down in the hole. You're going to backfill it up to about this point here, halfway on the mine. Make sure you pack the dirt in around it. At that point, that is when you are going to attach the trip lever to the trip lever cam up on top here. Reportedly, it only takes about 4 turns to screw that lever into that socket. You are then going to locate one or two anchor points at roughly a 45-degree angle from the mine, so V-shaped, to a max of probably, say, about 19 feet, since each tripwire is 20 feet in length, about 19 feet away from the mine. You're going to tie it off on the anchor, bring the tripwires back to the mine. You are then going to attach them to the eyelet on the top of the trip lever. Make sure they are loose. There's a note on that, a big warning, make sure the tripwires are loose. And it'll make sense in a second here why. Once you had the tripwires brought back, now you are going to remove the arming latch retaining pin. You are going to rotate the pressure plate 90 degrees clockwise to the arm position, and that trip lever might rotate just a little bit inside the socket. It might not. That's why you need those tripwires just a little bit on the slack side. You get it into that position. There's no excess pressure on the pressure plate. Then you're going to go through, backfill the dirt around up to the top of the mine here. You are going to camouflage the top of the mine. Then you're going to back away from the mine in the prone position. Using the lanyard, very carefully pull the latch off of the top of the mine. The mine is armed, ready to go. Now, removal from tripwire mode. First thing you're going to do, check around the mine for any protective mines, any booby traps. Take care of them as you come across them. Locate your mine. You are then going to uncover the top of the mine. Very, very carefully slip the arming latch all the way onto the mine, making sure the middle prong goes all the way around the trip lever cam here, that socket, and is seated in place. Once you got that done, follow the trip wires out to the ends. Make sure they are not attached to any other booby trap or mines at the ends of the trip wires. You confirm there's nothing there. Move back to the mine. You will then disconnect the trip wires from the trip lever. You are going to rotate the mine from armed to safe. Then you are going to remove the trip lever from the top of the mine. You are then going to go through, check around the outside outside of the mine. Make sure that there is no anti-handling device or booby trap attached to that mine. You confirm there's nothing there. You have that pressure plate is in the safe mode. Remove the mine from the hole. You're going to reinsert the arming latch retaining pin into its location on the back of the mine here. You may have to back the pressure plate just a little bit towards arm just to get it to line up correctly. Get it in there. Spread the ends on the cotter pin to safe the mine. You're then going to clean up the pieces. You're going to recover your tripwire. and you're going to turn everything into the mine dump for either reuse or destruction. Now, these mines, even though officially they are not in depots in the United States, they would have been destroyed in the 1990s, I have a nasty suspicion that they will make a reappearance. That maybe there was a few thousand of them that weren't accounted for, or they were reported as being destroyed, but someone kept them there for emergency use if ever needed. These mines do not even appear in Special Forces manuals. For the engineer sergeant, they're not even listed in there. So that kind of pushes towards that the existing stocks were destroyed. But like I said, I just had this weird suspicion that this mine will make an appearance in North America if anything happens. So that's why I covered it, so that you're aware of it, and you're aware that these things are very twitchy. It takes a lot less pressure on the pressure plate to set these off, reportedly from engineers that did handle them. They're just a little bit too twitchy. They're extremely dangerous, and you have to take into account during the entire process to keep that pressure plate stabilized, prevent it from activating. Now, for all my engineer brothers and Patriot militia movements, always remember, essay ons.